Okay, it's this Lindsay. It's Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, and yeah, I'm just gonna do a little video, an audio video about how I knew that this was gonna happen. Okay, I knew I had been having some dreams in the past several days about something that was gonna happen because I just knew it. Inevitably, when you've been involved with a person who's very narcissistic and pathological liar and a sex addict and all that, you can pretty much predict their patterns when they ghost you and disappear for a while, like what happened with me. Clearly that's indicative that they are with other women, or if it's a man, in my case, that he was with other women, his other supply, whatever. And, because that's what they do. They never are loyal or committed to one person because they don't know how to do that. That's not what narcissistic people do, because they need a constant flow of supply and admiration from the opposite sex or even the same sex to keep them, just that's what they have to have, because without that energy from other people that they steal, they cannot function, and they go into a deep, deep depression, and they basically nonetheless they have, people are their fuel. For narcissistic people, fuel is everything from supply, and fuel, it's everything from a negative supply to good supply to anything and everything. And it could be people, it can be items, money, food, whatever. But mostly it's when it's a sex addict, they're usually looking for that. They're looking for somebody who's going to fulfill a need that they have, and they have multiple people that will do that, but there's usually a few of them or one of those people who does something that they prefer, and so they try to, they'll disappear and they'll come back. They'll do a reverse discard. They'll force you to break up with them or go no contact only because they are involved with someone else, and they do that to gaslight you and confuse you, to keep you hanging on and wondering what's going on. Why did they disappear? When am I going to see this person again? Or am I going to see this person again? Are they going to contact me again? What should I do? It's to confuse you. It's all meant to confuse you, and it's all done strategically so that they can try to continue to manipulate the narrative to their advantage, as well as keep you wound up and confused and wondering and thinking about them. Like other people say, living quote unquote rent free. They're living rent free in your mind. And I've heard other narcissistic coaches talk about that. Or so that's a phrase that, they'll try to just occupy your mind and energy with you having all these unanswered questions, because they don't know how to, they don't believe in closure. Adults who are healthy and stable and mature can part ways in an amicable way, and they just depart their ways and go their separate ways, and that's it. You don't have any bad feelings, it ended, whatever, and that's it. And that's usually how mature adults handle relationships. But with narcissistic people, they can't accept that something is over if you discarded them or whatever, or because you found out that they are lying and cheating on you, for example, like in my situation, I was being used and lied to and cheated on. So obviously I just fucking was like, I can't handle this anymore. This is toxic. You're using me, you're exploiting me, and you're lying to me. I don't like being lied to when it comes to being intimate with somebody. If they're lying to you about the fact that they've been with other people while they're with you, then that's a big no-no in my case. Okay, I don't believe in that. If somebody needs to be polyamorous, then they need to be open about that and let you know up front what they're about. But when they lie and you catch them in a lie after lie after lie, then that's when you have to get out. That's when you know that they're not going to change. They don't have any respect for you, and it's never going to get any better, because these people normally don't ever change it just gets worse the more you accept a Hoover from them or open your door to them. It will get worse. It won't get any better because they don't really know how to introspect and admit that they have a fault or failure, because they think they're perfect and they think they can have whatever they want when they want it. And that's how these narcissistic type creatures operate, because I've known my share of them throughout my life, and I've got my experience enough to validate what I'm saying. So anyway, I had been thinking, okay, so the last time I've talked about this particular man for a while now in videos, and the person would claim that he cared about me a lot, that I was the only person he was intimately involved with, and that, he did a lot of future faking with me. He was very manipulative. He was very critical and controlling of my body, of my image and whatnot, kind of like it being treated like an object. And then like I was bought and sold, like he was trying to be my handler, or there was clearly some kind of motive that he had, that maybe it was financial, or like he was being paid. Like it felt as if somebody was paying him to just be in my life, to try to handle me and manipulate me and sort of whatever. Really strange, a very strange situation, needless to say. There were some I would get a lot of red flags, and a lot of my intuition was in high gear throughout that whole situation for, the 2 years that it went on, because however long, 2.5 years, I think, that this person was coming in and out of my life. And basically I felt that I was being extremely taken advantage of and exploited sexually by this man. And come to find out, he was basically living a double life. I didn't need to do any kind of investigation work or anything like that to go figure that out. It was just common sense, because of the way he would twist his words, and I would catch him in so many lies, and he would give me little half hints about what he had been up to or what he was doing. So it was obvious. I was just kind of playing along, knowing good and well that the man was lying to me. And I was like, well, whatever. This is kind of interesting to see from a psychological perspective what this man, how he operates, because, these people wear a mask for different people and situations. They basically, they'll put on a complete front for someone, and then they'll completely be a different person for someone else. That's just what they do, because they don't have a genuine way to just be themselves, or there's certain people who they feel comfortable being themselves with, but it's about image. And for these people, narcissists, I'm talking about, you malignant or covert narcissists, somatic, whatever, it doesn't even matter what kind of narcissist it is, they have to put on it's a facade, it's an act, it's a means for them to try to impress other people, because it's about status and image for them, and their whole life revolves around portraying an image to the public so that they can be accepted and liked, because usually they're very concerned about, like I said, their image and money. They might not act, necessarily all the time like that's what's going on, but you can see from their behavior, depending on where they work, the way they dress, what they do for a living, it's about that, and that their whole life revolves around these kinds of things, and it can be very superficial and pretentious, and they act pretentious. They're very it's just kind of hard for them to open up. You open up to them, and you're very transparent, but they have a very difficult time being very honest and transparent with other people, because, like I said, they're so used to lying and wearing a mask and portraying themselves as somebody who they're not, that that's kind of who they are. That's their whole persona. And it's very difficult to really get to know the real them, but you have to, as long as you're like listening and paying attention to what they do, how they behave, and what they say, you'll figure it out, and you'll be able to see beyond the mask and see beyond the cracks and crevices of these people to see who they really are at the core. Because they're usually very fragile, insecure people who are looking for, they don't like to be alone. They can't handle being by themselves, or if they need to have constant attention from the opposite sex. Usually they don't want to be, they need people around them all the time. They thrive in environments that are competitive with people all over the place because they want to be the center of attention, and they kind of demand being the center of attention. And when they don't get their way, they act out. When they don't get their way, how they want things or exactly how they want things, they tend to act out. And it can be in ways where they seek revenge, where they'll do a smear campaign. They'll send flying monkeys out to gang stalk and harass the target, whoever their target is, whoever into the relationship or whatever's going on. They get involved with, often they're involved with all kinds of, sometimes religious organizations, secret societies. Sometimes they're satanic, or they're involved with that kind of stuff, or they just do a lot of shady things that you might not know about, but they live a double life. They basically do a lot of things that if you knew what they do, you'd be horrified and you wouldn't want to have anything to do with them. And they usually have fetishes that could involve things that are very taboo. And they usually, when it comes to men, if they're narcissistic, they could be a somatic, which would mean that they could be a somatic narcissist, which means they're a sex addict, and that it's all about that and about body and sex and pleasing them in intimate things, and they're just sex addicts. Or they could be a cerebral narcissist, or they could be just a malignant or a covert narcissist. There's different kinds. But nonetheless, it's a personality disorder. There's no cure for it. These people definitely never change. It gets worse and worse as they get older. As their looks start to fade, they kind of, they don't get better over time. It usually gets worse for these people, and they go through one relationship after the next, constantly looking for something better, something new, something shiny and bright, and a new object, and then they get sick and tired of that for a while. They'll shelf that person, and then they'll recycle. They'll go back to their old lovers or relationships or whatever, and then they'll try to, they hang on to their past. They don't really know how to let go of something and move on, because they like to try to hang on to everybody from their past, because they see people as objects who they can just sort of, like I said, recycle, stick them on the shelf or stick them in the harem, so that they can come back to you whenever they want something from you that you can fulfill that maybe someone else can't or doesn't do a good job, the same kind of job that you do for them. And so it's all about that. It's all about what can you do for them, and how are you going to do it, and when are you going to do it. And that's it. It's transactional. It's a transaction. There's no love. There's no stability. There's no trust. There's no real communication. There's no real, it's just a transactional type situation. You can try and try to have a real conversation with them, to try to build trust in a genuine kind of caring, loving type relationship where two people are mutually, giving in a relationship. But with them, it's always very one-sided. They don't reciprocate, and they expect you to do all the work as far as like trying to like please them and whatnot. And usually they're not. Like they might half-ass try to please you, let's say intimately, but then, if you don't perform in a way that they want, or if something goes wrong, then they blame you and they disappear. And then they try to confuse you and make you feel guilty because you're asking yourself, what did I do wrong? And you didn't do anything. It's just the way that these people are, because they, like I said, they get bored. They want the thrill of the chase. They've got to find something that they can chase and conquer and hunt down. And then as soon as they get it, they don't want it. They let it go and they go find something else. They're like children. They're like, they have arrested development. Usually they have ADD. They're like animals. I would kind of compare a male somatic narcissist or a covert malignant narcissist, well, let's say malignant narcissist, to somewhat like a dog or an animal in need of constant, like a attention. An animal that needs attention, like dogs. Some dogs are very much needy of attention, whereas a cat is much more independent and, not so needy of their owner. Well, with a narcissistic man who's a sex addict, he needs you to be a pet. He'll treat you like a pet. He'll treat you like an object, and basically he'll love bomb you and tell you you're wonderful, you're gorgeous at first, and then that all disappears, and then the criticism comes in during the devaluation stage. And then when they come back to hoover you after the discard or the reverse of discard, and then they come back to hoover, then it all starts up again. Oh, a little bit of the love bombing. Oh, I missed you. You're beautiful, or you're gorgeous, or yeah, you're so sexy. I can't keep my all that crap that they say to try to get you all like, feeling special or wanted or desired. That's all fake. That's all just so they can get what they want in the moment, And then you're left feeling dry and empty whenever whatever happens, because they disappear. And you don't know when you're going to hear from them again, if ever. But then they'll show up a month or two later, for example, and let me talk about what happened to me. Speaking of which, so the last time I had seen this man, we went to a cemetery, right? It was my idea to go there because I like to sometimes explore these places. First we went to the Dollar Tree, then we went to the cemetery. And I remember clearly, very well, what happened there. And then we left, and he was driving his mother's car because his car apparently was in the shop. Then we get back home, we get back here, whatever happens, and then he leaves, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'll come by tomorrow when I get off work or something." And that was like a month and a half ago, a month and 3 weeks ago, whatever. And that I never heard, and after that I didn't hear from him again. He never showed up. He doesn't have my phone number. I didn't give him my phone number, or he didn't have my new phone number, because I preferred to keep it like that for now. Until I don't feel like he deserves to have my phone number after what he's done, and so I didn't give it to him. And so he doesn't have, the only way he can contact me is by either coming to my house or sending a letter in the mail or whatever. And he had intentionally, speaking of that, put a note that he had written under the steps so that I wouldn't, and then he told me about the fact that the note was under the steps, but I can see it, but I can't reach it. So that's called gaslighting. They'll just fuck with your head. And that was like from a couple months ago when he left that there, and I can see it all faded. I can see it through the cracks under the steps, all faded. The ink's all faded, so I can't see what it says, but I can see that it was, whatever. That's meant to fuck with your mind, to make you have to remember, or to force you to have to think about something from the past, because that's what they want to do, is stay in your mind so that you don't move on, or that you have to be reminded of them, even though they're out there with the new supply, whatever they're doing, acting like they're living their best life, but that's not really how it is, because they can't ever be satisfied. It's like trying to fill up a bucket that's got holes in it that's never gonna fill up, because they are never gonna find what they want, because they're always gonna be looking for that one somebody like you and someone else, and when it's just never gonna be good enough. It's impossible to please them. It's just, you have to realize that you could fucking go to the moon and back and be but nothing's going to be good enough for them. Nothing. It's never going to satisfy them, because they have an unsatiated demand for things that most people, one person can't do. One person can't handle all that, because that's why they have multiple supply people, because they can't No one person could fulfill all the needs and demands of a narcissist. It's impossible. You can't do it. Trust me, it can't be done. And so when they realize that you're not perfect, that you've got flaws, that you've got problems, that you're just a human being who's trying to just live their life, then they get disgruntled and they get mad because you're not perfect. And that's when they start, going on the hunt for new supply. And then they come back to hoover you after disappearing. So nonetheless, what happened with me? Here's an example. So this man, I had not heard from him in like a month and a half, right? A month and 3 weeks. So yesterday, just so happens that I've, ironically enough, is it because these financial reasons that they want to, you never know exactly what their motive is, but you can kind of put two and two together and realize a lot of the times it's about financial abuse. They want to control you financially, sexually, whatever. And that's what they thrive off of, is control and power over another person. So just so happens I've got some repairs going on in this house. Some major repairs have been going on. So I've had people coming and going, doing repair work, plumbers and whatnot. So it's been like that for a couple weeks. And so yesterday I'm here at home on my computer, and all of us sitting at the desk, my table, I hear a knock on the window, and lo and behold, I'm like, oh no, it can't be. Because I heard that pattern, the knocking pattern. And I was like, oh my God, look what that is. I recognized it. And sure enough, it was him. And I didn't respond in the way that he probably expected me to. And so I let him inside. I opened the door. I shouldn't have. That's my problem, is that I tend to be empathetic and somewhat sympathetic towards these people. And I have a soul and a mind and a heart where I feel emotionally towards people and their struggles, because I've been through it myself a lot. So I kind of felt, well, let me see what's going on. I'll try to put on my best behavior and be nice, even though deep down I'm hurt and angry that what this man did to me, and the way he betrayed me and lied to me and exploited me and set me up and tried to fucking make a fool out of me and screwed around behind my back and screwed with God knows how many women and lied to me to my face so many times and cheated on me. But here I am opening the door, letting him inside. And then he tells me, I'm like, so I ask him, so what have you been up to for the past month and a half? I haven't seen you in a while. And he says that he comes up with this fabricated, I could tell that it was a lie. He says, and I'm almost positive that it's a lie, he says that he had been in Houston working at the Saks Fifth Avenue at the Galleria in Houston for the past month and a half, and that he just got back in town on Friday, and that, his work sent him there. The Saks Fifth Avenue here in San Antonio sent him there, and that and I'm like, oh, and I said, so apparently he flew there in a plane. They even flew him there and put him up in a hotel. I said, what hotel? He said, oh, I forget the name of it, La Quinta or whatever. I said, oh, really? What part of town was it in? And I said, is that Saks Fifth Avenue part of the Galleria? Is it actually across the street, or is it in the Galleria? I don't remember. He's like, oh, and he got all confused. And he's like, why are you asking me all these questions? Why are you investigating me? I said, well, don't you know? Weren't you just there? I'm like, and I said, so what department were you working in? He said, the shoe department. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, and you're in the and what did you do when you're in Houston? Did you go out? Did you do anything fun? Houston's a big city. Did you go out dancing or anything? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, did you have a car? He's like, no, because I was like, oh. I said, so how did you get to work? He said, Uber. I was like, And I said, what else would you do in your spare time? He said he just would work and go stay in the hotel. I'm like, oh, okay, sounds like fun. Wow, that's great. And then, but he seemed to be a little bit confused about where the Saks Fifth Avenue was, about what hotel he was staying in or what motel. And then he said that I said, so what'd you do for Thanksgiving? He said, I was here at my mom and dad's house, in my house. I said, oh, really? So do you fly? So you flew back to San Antonio for Thanksgiving? He's like, no, I drove. I said, oh, you drove, but I thought you flew to Houston to work. I'm confused. You drove back to for Thanksgiving, but you don't have a car. How'd you do that? Oh, I rented a car to drive back from Houston to San Antonio for Thanksgiving just for the night. I said, oh, wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's cool. Okay, whatever, cool. So I could kind of, and then he started getting offended because I was asking him questions. I wasn't talking to him in that manner, that voice, or that tone, but I could tell that he was full of like fucking lying out of his teeth. It was such a lie. I was like, oh my God, this guy is lie. I could tell that he was lying about, maybe bits and pieces were true. But I'm almost 100% sure that the whole thing was a lie. I suppose that he was expecting me during that time to go out looking for him or call him or maybe even go to his workplace and start, trying to hoover him. But no, I don't do that. I just stay to myself. I just try to erase it all from my mind and go about my life and do my thing. Whereas these people, they come back to hoover you because they have some problems or something's going wrong with their current relationship. So what do? They come back to hoover their ex or their ex from 5 years ago or whatever because, this person is so vulnerable and so easy to target that I can get my way with that person because, I'm a narcissist and I get what I want, and this person is just, I can get what I want from them whenever I want, and that's how they see it. They see you as being weak and vulnerable, but maybe you're not that way. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just somebody who's a nice, good person who truly has empathy and truly had, like I admit, I truly had feelings for this man. And he knows that, and he took advantage of that. He knows that I cared about him in a genuine way. He knows I wasn't fucking lying to him about anything at all, and that I was very transparent, and he took complete fucking advantage of that. Whereas I'm sure that the women he's involved with or whatever are toxic, manipulative, just as bad as he is, and he loves that. Let him stew in his own venom with all these kinds of toxic people, because you know what? I don't need it in my life. I don't like being lied to. I don't like being lied to. I can't fucking stand being lied to, and just, it's just very hurtful to be lied to when you're so transparent and giving and open with somebody and they fucking betray you like that. It's really fucking horrible. It's really bad, especially when you're intimate with them or that you do something for them that's very personal and intimate. And I can't believe that these people behave in that kind of self-absorbed, selfish, narcissistic way. It's very evil. It's very evil. But it is what it is, and you move on and you forget about it, and they just come back to fucking test the waters to see what you're up to because they want something. That's it. It's not because they give a shit about you. It's not because they really genuinely care. It's because they want something, or something's not going well for them at the present time with whoever the fuck it is that they're with, and oh no, so they've got to come back to you because you're the easy target who treated them well and fucking saw through their bullshit, the one who got away, who doesn't put up with that fucking shit that they think that everybody can see. I guess I'm the only one who saw through the bullshit of all his goddamn however fucking many women he's got. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I really don't. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to know, because all they do is try to fuck with you and hurt you and prevent you from moving on. Or they want to act like if you're doing something, they have to be a part of it because they want credit for it. No, sir. If you can't be honest with me and upfront and genuine, then bye-bye, sayonara, see ya. But anyway, by the way, what was kind of odd is that he had a t-shirt, not a t-shirt, a cap on. And this is the first time I've ever seen him with a baseball cap that said Bullets on it. I was like, Bullet? I was like, well, I the name sounded familiar. I'm like, that's some kind of sports team. And I just looked it up, and it used to be the Washington Wizards, and now the Washington Bullets, and now I guess they're the Washington Wizards. And I'm thinking, Bullet, Wizard. Well, Wizard is a witch, a male warlock or a male witch, right? Or a magician. Okay, I get it. What are you... I know that this guy is kind of like a warlock of some kind. He does some... Who knows what he does? But, I know that he tries to think that he has power over me. But you know what? I've got powers as well. But I'm not evil. But, whatever. I just had to talk about that because... You never know with these people, but what I know is that he wasn't in Houston for a month and a half at Saks Fifth Avenue at the Galleria, staying in a La Quinta Inn or whatever without a vehicle. No, that's a fucking lie. Lie, 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 lie.